English language, the word for listen is esht. Esht. Would you say that with me? Esht. Sing the line, just sing it right back.
lament. O God, our creator and sustainer, I cry out to you to hear my sorrow. You who of old carried our founders as we struggled to create a new, separate identity, imagining into being a new country. You who wept tears to heal the raw wounds we created by defining some of our brothers and sisters as lesser, rejecting the bounty that you surrounded us with. You who provided wisdom and knowledge as we learned to walk among our peers in the world, jostling through periods of peace and violence, periods of plenty and need. I see the sorrow in Gaza, the voices of the guilty and innocent alike calling out in pain. And we do not name the injustices and evil that lives in that conflict. We do not challenge the institutions we belong to endeavor equally to practice peace as violence, even in the name of defense. And we do not feed the hungry, heal the wounded, and comfort the dying. Lord, I admit that I look away. I take comfort in the distance between the conflict and me. I deny my agency in the institutions that sustain the violence of the conflict. I ask for courage to use my voice and call others to use theirs. I ask for wisdom to heal the conflicts which I touch daily, and in doing so, exercise the gifts that you provide to create a peace that is experienced by all. I ask that peace come to reside in the hearts of the combatants, choosing compassion over past resentments. I ask that your courage and wisdom extend to all those involved in the conflict, that they may exercise the gifts of the peacemaker. I ask that the hungry receive food, the wounded receive care, and those mourning receive hope. Lord, in you resides all love, all peace, and all hope. I thank you for your faithfulness through all of the times we have walked through periods of violence and fear. You have provided the perfect example of compassion and sustain us daily to follow that example. I thank you for the examples, past and present, that call us to peace, and the fortitude to follow in their footsteps. In you, Lord, all things are possible.
Today in the church calendar, it's called the Feast of the Holy Innocents. And it's because of this passage that we have this feast. This is a reading from the Gospel of Matthew. When the astrologers had left, the angel of God appeared in a dream to Joseph. "Get up, Joseph. Take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you otherwise, for Herod is searching for the child to destroy him." So Joseph got up, awakened Jesus and Mary. They left that night for Egypt, They stayed there until the death of Herod, to fulfill what God had said through the prophet, "Out of Egypt I have called my own." Herod became furious when he realized that the astrologers had tricked him. So he gave orders to kill all male children that were 2 years of age and younger, living in and around Bethlehem. This was to fulfill what the prophet Jeremiah had said. A voice was heard in Ramah, sobbing, lamenting loudly. It was Rachel, weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled, for they were no more. So I'd like to share with you tonight, in the tradition of Ignatian spirituality, the story when Jesus first heard his calling recorded in the scriptures. When he first heard from God who he was and what he was called to be and do in this world. The story goes like this. It happened this way. We were all together, all of us, rich and poor, young and old, women, men, children, all of us were together that day by the river. For John had called us out. John, the wild man, John, who dressed in wild clothes and ate wild food and said wild things. John, the wild man. He loved us, and we loved him. And that day he had something special in mind. So there we were by the river. John was in the shallow part, and we were walking along the land, the shore, closer and closer to John, hundreds and hundreds of us. And as people approached John, they began to reveal their secrets to him. Things you would never hear people say in public, they said to John. And he would lay his hands on their shoulders, and gently down into the water they went. And when they came up, somehow they were different. Some of them were crying, some were laughing. Others, the expression on their face, you could see something had happened. So we moved closer and closer to John, and then I spotted him. It was Jesus. He was in the crowd with the others, moving toward John. So I elbowed my way through the crowd, got to where I was side by side with Jesus. He looked at me and smiled, as if to say, "Come on, let's walk together, go see John." So off we went, closer and closer to the wild man in the water. Finally, we were face to face with John. John looked at Jesus and he seemed upset. And he said, "Jesus, what are you doing here? You should be baptizing me." And Jesus smiled and said to John, "Isn't it odd? Isn't it strange? But this is what we should do." So John laid his trembling hands on the shoulders of Jesus, and down into the water Jesus went. He seemed to stay down there a long time. I was getting worried. But then up out of the water he came, like springs on the bottom of his feet, and his arms outstretched, and his face. I wish you could have seen that face. He was radiant. And then something very strange happened. A bird, some say it was like a dove, hovered over Jesus' head. Jesus looked at the bird and smiled, like he knew who the bird was. And then, the next moment, a voice, more like a song, the most beautiful song, the most beautiful voice. And this voice sang these words: "You are my beloved. I delight in you. You are my beloved. I delight in you." I cannot tell you the power of those words. We heard this song and we received it. We stood there drinking in those words. You are my beloved. I delight in you. And then one by one, eventually, people began to walk away. Jesus walked away, and some of us followed him. So that's the story, told in an Ignatian kind of way. To see what was there, to hear, to feel, to scent, to sense, to enter into the story so that the story can enter into us. And tonight I would just invite you to hear those words. You are my beloved. I delight in you. Hear them because God is saying them or singing them to each one of us. And just like Jesus in the story, although it's not written, I believe it's clearly present. His response to those words: yes, I am your beloved. Yes, you delight in me. If we can live our lives from that place, hearing God say to us, you are my beloved, I delight in you, and to respond to God's voice, yes, I am your beloved, you do delight in me. If this can be what we hear in the morning and before we fall asleep at night, our life will be very good indeed. We'll close with a song. Amor de todos los amores, love of all loves. I'll sing a line, just sing it right back. Amor de todos los amores, de todos los amor de todos los amores. At the close of this day, we give you thanks for your great love for all peoples everywhere. May we have the ears to hear your sweet voice singing to us, "You are my beloved, I delight in you." And may we have the courage to respond and say, "Yes, I am your beloved. You do delight in me." May it be so.